The sun on the alien planet Gliese 4 was soft and golden. It lit the green skies and purple trees like something from a dream. Human soldier Elias Walker stood outside the communication post, staring at the strange beauty he had been sent to. The planet as part of a peace mission. Just after the Human Gallery Treaty was signed, the Galari people were tall, slender, and had glowing silver skin. They were peaceful but cautious, especially around humans. Elias didn't mind. He liked quiet places, and Gliese 4 was the quietest he'd ever seen. But then came the girl. She was small, maybe 7 Earth years old, with bright teal eyes and tiny horns just above her brows. Her name was Sira, and she had questions, many questions. "Why do your eyes not glow?" she asked. "Why does your blood stay inside? Why do you wear armor when there is no war?" Elias would laugh every time. "Because humans are weird," he told her once, patting her head gently. Instead of running off, she followed him everywhere like a shadow. She copied how he walked, how he spoke, and even how he saluted. The other soldiers teased him, calling her his little alien puppy. He didn't mind. She was the only thing that made the long days interesting. One day, there was a celebration in the village. A harvest festival under the twin moons. The humans were invited, and Elias showed up in his cleaned armor. The Galari children danced. In the air, their wings flickering like fireflies, Sira tugged on his hand. Dragging him into the circle of dancers, he stumbled, laughed, and tried to keep up. Everyone laughed when he fell flat on his back. Especially Sira. "You are slow," she giggled, sitting beside him. "You will never catch a Galari wife like that." Elias, still lying on the ground, smirked and said, "Then maybe I'll wait for you to grow up." The crowd nearby heard it. Some gasped, most laughed. Even Sira's parents chuckled, thinking it was just a joke. But Sira's eyes lit up like stars, and she whispered, "Then I will grow fast." Elias didn't think much about it after that. A few weeks later, the peace mission ended. The human ship arrived, and Elias had to leave. Sira ran beside him until the very edge of the landing field. "Will you come back?" she asked, holding a small crystal in her hand. He bent down, took the crystal and said, "Maybe one day when you're all grown up." Then he smiled, waved, and left her standing there, staring at the sky. Years passed. Elias returned to Earth, then was assigned to other planets. He fought in 2 more border conflicts and earned medals. But sometimes, when things were quiet, he would remember that alien girl with glowing eyes and endless questions. He wondered if she still remembered him. He laughed at the idea, telling himself she probably forgot everything. After all, it was just a joke, right? But far away, on Gliese 4, Sira had not forgotten. She wore the crystal around her neck every day. She trained with the elders, studied languages, learned human culture, and became a skilled warrior. When the time came to choose her path, she told her people she would find the human named Elias Walker. They were shocked, but they did not stop her. Some believed it was destiny, others believed it was madness. But Sira believed in one thing: only he made a promise, and she would make sure he kept it. And so the stars began to turn. One day, far from Gliese 4, on a quiet space station near the outer rim, Elias stood drinking his synthetic coffee. The war was behind him, and peace was something he was still learning to live with. Suddenly, the station alarm buzzed softly. A small diplomatic ship had arrived. No call, no warning. He didn't care. Probably just another inspection, until the dock opened, and a tall figure stepped out, wearing ceremonial armor that shimmered like moonlight. The figure removed her helmet, revealing teal eyes, silver skin, and tiny horns just above her brows. She was no longer a child. Her voice was calm but clear as she said, "You made a promise." Elias dropped his coffee. Staring in silence, the joke was over. The girl had grown up, and she had returned. Elias had seen many strange things in his life. He had fought alien raiders, survived a ship crash, and even helped negotiate peace with a warlord. But nothing prepared him for this moment. The little alien girl from his past had returned. And she wasn't little anymore. She stood tall and proud, her armor shining like liquid stars. Her long silver hair flowed behind her, and her eyes glowed softly like moons. She looked like a queen, or maybe a weapon, but when she spoke, Elias heard the same voice, the girl who once asked why humans didn't glow. "You made a promise," she said again, this time walking toward him. The entire docking bay crew stood frozen. Unsure what to do, Elias cleared his throat, trying to stay calm. I didn't think you'd remember that," he said, almost laughing, but not quite. "I remember everything," Sierra replied, her voice steady. "And I've come to claim it," Elias blinked. "Claim it? You mean the joke about marriage?" She nodded once, slow and serious. "I was a child then," Elias said, rubbing his forehead. "That wasn't real. But I believed it," she said softly. "And now so do others." Others. That word made something in Elias's chest tighten behind her. 2 more Galari stepped out from the ship elders by the look of them, wearing robes and carrying staffs of polished crystal. They bowed their heads to Elias, their glowing eyes full of strange respect. "We greet the human," one said. "The one who made the sacred vow." "Sacred?" Elias almost choked. "I was just joking. It was a laugh." "To you, maybe," the elder said. "But to our young, words shape destiny. And a vow heard under the moons is a vow bound by stars." Elias looked at Sierra, who stood calmly, watching him. "You planned this?" he asked. "You came all this way because of something I said years ago?" "I trained for it," she answered. "Prepared my body, my mind, my heart." "For what?" he asked, more confused than ever. "To be worthy of you," she said. "Simply, to become your equal." Elias laughed nervously, stepping back. "This is insane," he muttered. "You don't even know me anymore." "I know enough," she said. "You kept peace when others chose war. You saved a Galari child from falling into fire. And you treated me like I mattered." "You were a kid," Elias said. "I was being kind." "Kindness is never forgotten," she replied. "Not on Gliese 4. One of the elders stepped forward and raised his staff. "We are here not to take you, human, but to ask," he said. "Sierra has been chosen by the council, and you are the missing piece in a ceremony of power, a bond that may save our world." "Save it from what?" Elias asked, his voice turning cold. "From invasion," the elder said. "A shadow army moves through space, destroying all in its path. They do not speak. They do not stop." Elias knew about them. Dark fleets, silent and cruel, had already consumed 3 outer colonies. Earth had called them the Whispering Swarm, and no one had stopped them yet. Now it seemed they were moving toward Gliese 4. "What does this have to do with me?" Elias asked. "I'm not a general anymore. I'm retired." "You are more than a general." The elder said. "You are the key." Sierra stepped closer now, her face calm but her eyes full of emotion. "I carry ancient Galari blood," she said, "but it needs something older, something human, something wild and brave." "You mean me?" Elias asked, shocked. "Yes," she nodded. "You are the last carrier of the Warburn gene, and when joined with my line, it will awaken something forgotten." Elias stared at her, speechless. "So this isn't really about a marriage?" He finally said. "It's not about love," she admitted. "But the bond must be real." "Why me?" he whispered. "Why not another human?" "Because only you made the promise," she said. "And only your voice can start the bond." The words felt heavy, more than just sound. He looked at her again, so different from the girl he knew, yet still the same in her eyes. He didn't know what to say, what to feel. Everything inside him wanted to run, to laugh, to hide. But then came the sound alarms from the station's comm center. A tech officer shouted, "Unidentified ships entering outer range." No response to hails. The Whispering Swarm. They had come early. Sierra turned to Elias, her eyes glowing bright now. "You don't have to love me," she said. "You don't even have to believe in fate. But if you say the words, I will become something they cannot destroy. Elias looked at her, then at the elders, and finally at the stars outside the window. What was once a joke had become the choice between life and death. He took a deep breath and whispered, What do I have to say? Sira smiled, just a little. Say what you said before, she answered, and mean it this time. The chamber was cold, silent, and full of old power. Elias stood at the center, feeling like a fool in a place he didn't belong. Sira stood across from him, her armor removed, replaced with ceremonial robes that shimmered like water under moonlight. The Galari elders chanted in a soft, steady rhythm, their staffs glowing with blue fire. It was time to begin the bonding ritual. But Elias still didn't understand. This feels like a wedding, he whispered, glancing at Sira. It's not, she said softly. It's a bond of energy, not of love, unless you choose it to be. The floor beneath them lit up with symbols Elias couldn't read. He felt a soft vibration in his chest, like the room was alive, breathing. He looked around at the watchers. Gallery. Warriors, scientists, elders, even children. They all watched him like he was a myth returning to life. Are you sure I'm the right person? Elias asked one last time. Yes. Sira answered without hesitation. How? He said, You knew me for 2 weeks when you were a child. I watched everything. She said, Your kindness, your strength, your laughter, and your loneliness. You saw my loneliness? Elias frowned. It was the one thing we had in common, she replied. The elder raised his staff and the lights turned brighter. Speak the words, he said. Let the bond begin. Elias hesitated. The memory of his joke all those years ago flashed in his mind. He never meant it, never believed it would lead to this. But now, the galaxy was on the edge of war. And this girl, now a woman, believed in him more than anyone else ever had. He looked into Sira's glowing eyes and said, When you grow up, I'll marry you. The same words. But this time his voice didn't shake, and he didn't laugh. The ground trembled. A pulse of light exploded from the floor, rising between them like a tower of fire. Sira gasped, her body lifting slightly off the ground, her eyes wide with energy. Elias staggered back as symbols danced around his arms, wrapping him in golden light. But then, something went wrong. The lights flickered, the room shook harder, and a warning siren echoed through the chamber. Elders shouted in confusion, and one of the crystals above them cracked with a sharp, ringing sound. No, one elder whispered. The bond is incomplete. Sira fell to the ground, breathing hard, her face pale. Elias rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed completely. What happened? He asked, panicked. She's resisting, the elder said. Her body accepts the power, but her heart is not fully open. Elias looked down at Sira, who was trembling in his arms. What did you hide from me? He whispered. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. I wanted this to be real, she said, her voice weak. But I was afraid you wouldn't mean it. Elias felt the truth in her voice. She had trained, prepared, and even convinced her people. But deep inside, she was still that little girl, afraid of being forgotten, afraid he only saw her as a memory or a joke. The bond ceremony failed because her heart didn't believe it was real. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Elias asked. Because if I told you, she said, and you walked away, I wouldn't survive it. The room fell silent as the energy slowly faded. The elders lowered their staffs, their faces full of quiet sadness. One of them spoke. The bond cannot be forced. It must come from truth, not duty. Elias sat with Sira, holding her hand as her breathing slowed. He remembered her as a child, how bright she was, how curious, how full of life. And now, she was a warrior who had built her future around a single promise he never meant. But now, looking at her, Elias wondered maybe fate had a strange way of choosing. I didn't think anyone would ever wait for me, he said. Not even someone from my own world. Sira opened her eyes slowly. But I did, she said. I waited because I believed in who you were, even when I was just a child. He smiled gently. brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Maybe it wasn't just a joke after all, he whispered. She looked at him with tears that shimmered like stardust. Do you mean that? I think I'm starting to, he said. The elders watched quietly, saying nothing. But the room felt different now, less like a ceremony, and more like a beginning, far above the planet. The sensors blinked red. The swarm had entered the outer system, moving fast, cold, and silent. Time was running out. But this time, Elias was no longer laughing. And Sira no longer had to wait alone. The ship's lower deck was off limits to most. But Elias wasn't most people anymore. After the failed ceremony, Sira was resting under medical care. The Galari elders had gone silent, unsure what to do next. But Elias wasn't ready to give up. Something still didn't feel right. He needed answers, and he was going to find them. He moved through the dark halls of the Galari flagship. Guided by only the dim glow of his wrist scanner, he followed. Energy traces, the kind he remembered from his time in old war labs. Soon, he found a door made of thick black metal. Hidden behind a wall panel, the scanner blinked red, but the door slid open anyway. As if it had been waiting for him, inside was cold, quiet, and full of dust. Rows of glowing data pillars stretched across the room, each containing locked history. He tapped the console, and the system came alive. Galari script filled the screen, then slowly translated into Earth Standard. Project Warburn subject. Human compatibility tests status. Top secret. Forbiddance to broadcast. Elias froze. His hands shaking slightly. He began to read, and what he found chilled him to the core. Decades ago, before the peace treaty, the Galari had studied human biology in secret. They believed humans carried a dormant gene, a trait from an ancient warrior race wiped out long ago. That gene had power, raw and unstable, something the Galari feared and wanted. During Elias's first visit to Gliese 4, the Galari scanned him without permission. They found the rare gene buried in his bloodline. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a match, the only match. Sira had been selected as a child to be raised and trained to connect with that gene. Everything about her life had been shaped around that one mission, to bond with Elias and unlock what the Galari called the Flame of Origin. It wasn't just a sacred vow, it was a plan, built on secrets and silence. Elias leaned against the console, his chest heavy. They had used him without his knowledge, and they had used her too. All that time, he thought it was just a joke. And she thought it was destiny. But behind both stories was a cold design war planning, hidden in love's disguise. Footsteps echoed behind him. He turned quickly, but it was only Sira, dressed in a simple cloak, her eyes tired but alert. I thought I'd find you here, she said quietly. You knew? He asked, his voice low. She nodded slowly. I learned the truth 2 years ago. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, hurt in his voice. Because I didn't want to believe it, she said. And later, I was afraid you'd hate me. He looked back at the data streams, the cold facts glowing on the screen. So all this time we were pieces on someone else's board, he said. Maybe at first, she whispered. But I chose you, not the elders. I don't know if I can trust any of this now. Elias said, turning away from the screen. Sira stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. Then don't trust the mission, trust me, she said. What we've shared. It became real, didn't it? Elias didn't speak for a moment. He remembered her laughter, her fierce loyalty, the way she had waited without knowing if he'd ever come back. He remembered how she smiled when she saw him again, not like someone claiming a prize, but like someone finally coming home. Yeah, he said quietly. It became real. Suddenly, the ship's alarm blared through the halls. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, one of the Galari scouts speaking fast. The swarm has entered firing range, outer defense grid collapsing. They've bypassed our signal traps. Elias straightened, his soldier instincts kicking in. We need a plan, he said. Not just ships and guns, something they don't expect. Sira nodded. That means the bond, even if it's not complete yet. Elias looked at her. We try again? We try again, she said, her eyes now steady and clear. Before leaving the chamber, Elias turned back to the console. He erased the files, every trace of Project Warbird. No one should be built like this, he said. Sira agreed. Let's finish this story on our own terms. The two walked out together, side by side, not as test subjects, not as weapons, but as partners, ready to face the darkness together. And far above, the sky lit with the fire of approaching warships. Old war was never really over, but now a new kind of fire was about to rise. The swarm ships had entered orbit, black and silent, like shadows that didn't belong in the sky. They floated above Gliese 4, unmoving but terrifying. Every Galari on the planet knew they didn't come to speak, they came to destroy. Elias stood on the deck of the command ship, his eyes locked on the main screen. He had seen battle before, but this was different. The swarm used no radio, no signals, no reason. They just appeared, broke through defenses, and left nothing behind. Beside him stood Sira, no longer in her ceremonial robe, but in sleek silver. Armor built for speed and power. She had made her choice, and so had he. This wasn't about old promises anymore. It was about survival and something more. I don't know if the bond will work, Elias said, his hand tightening on the console. It will, Sira answered, not because of magic or prophecy, but because we're ready now. The elders had warned them. The bond between Gallery and human could not be forced through pressure or duty. It had to be born from connection, from trust, and from something close to love. And now, after all the secrets, the lies, the danger, something real had started to grow between them. Not just because of what they were told, but because of what they had chosen. Together, in the center of the command deck, the bonding chamber had been rebuilt. Smaller this time, faster, built only for them. Sira stepped in first, her hand reaching toward Elias. He followed without hesitation. As the chamber sealed, the room glowed with a soft blue light, and silence fell. Do you still remember the words? She asked gently. Elias smiled. I remember. And do you mean them this time? He nodded slowly. Yes, I do. Their hands touched and something happened. Not a flash, not an explosion, but a deep warmth that filled the room like sunlight. The chamber lit up from within, symbols spinning slowly around them in a golden spiral. Their heartbeats sensed, their thoughts connected. For a brief moment, they were one. The energy moved through them both. Sira's body shimmered, her armor melting into her skin as glowing wings of light formed behind her. Elias's veins lit with gold, and markings appeared across his arms and chest, symbols from a language no human had spoken in thousands of years. They had done it. The bond was complete, but it wasn't just power, it was something deeper. Sira opened her eyes, glowing brighter than ever before. I can feel it, she whispered. All of it. So can I, Elias said, his voice strong. And we're not alone. The ship trembled as the swarm began to move. Dozens of black ships broke formation, diving toward the surface like falling blades. The Galari fleet scrambled to respond, launching interceptors and activating defense shields, but they were already too close. Elias stepped forward, his body wrapped in light. Sira floated beside him, her wings stretching wide. Together, they walked to the outer deck, where the battle was beginning. The swarm saw them, and for the first time, they changed direction, as if they could feel the bond's energy, as if they feared it. Elias raised his hand, and golden light fired from his palm, striking a swarm ship directly. It exploded with a shockwave that lit the sky. Sira followed, slicing through another with a wave of her wing, sending a ripple through space. The Galari fleet cheered, hope rising in voices that had almost given up. A weapon wasn't always a gun or a bomb. Sometimes it was a promise. Sometimes it was love born from a joke that became a reason to live. Elias turned to Sira. We're not done yet, she smiled. Let's show them what humans and Galari can do together. For the next hour, They flew through space like fire and wind. Their energy fed each other, pushed them farther, faster, stronger. They became the heart of the defense. Ships that tried to land were destroyed. Swarm drones were ripped apart mid-air. And every time they fought together, their bond grew stronger. By the time the swarm began to retreat, the skies were littered with burning wreckage. Gliese 4 still stood, because of them. Because of the bond that wasn't supposed to happen. Because of a girl who waited, and a man who finally understood. As they landed back on the command deck, the crew bowed not in fear, but in gratitude. Sira turned to Elias, breathing hard but smiling. "You didn't run," she said. "Neither did you," he replied. "You turned a joke into a weapon." "No," she said, looking into his eyes. "We did." The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The swarm had pulled back, but only for now. Gliese 4's orbit still burned with the wreckage of ships. Glowing like falling stars in the sky, Elias stood at the top of the watchtower. Looking out at the horizon, his armor pulsed gently with golden energy. He didn't need sleep anymore, not like before. The bond had changed him, made him more than human. But still human enough to feel the weight of everything that had happened. Sira floated beside him, her wings folded neatly behind her back. She too was silent, her eyes on the burning sky. "They'll come again," she said at last, her voice soft. "I know," Elias answered, "but next time they'll expect us." He turned toward her, his face serious. "We can't win the next battle alone," Sira nodded. "That's why we're going to the High Council." The High Council was the ruling body of the United Systems. Earth had a seat there, but it was weak, ignored. The Galari had 2 seats, but used them carefully, afraid of war. Elias and Sira were planning something bold, to go before the council, not as soldiers, but as living proof. Proof that unity between alien and human was not only possible, but powerful. The ship they traveled in was fast and sleek, a hybrid of Galari design and human upgrades. It flew through wormholes and star paths like it was alive inside. Elias trained with new weapons that responded to his thoughts. Sira guided him, sometimes laughing, sometimes serious, always watching. Between training sessions they talked talked about their childhoods, their fears, their mistakes, and what they wanted if the war ever ended. For the first time, Elias told her about his brother, who died during the early alien wars. He had blamed the Gallery for years without knowing the full story, and Sira told him about the loneliness of being raised to serve a prophecy she didn't choose. Their bond deepened, no longer just light and power, but understanding. When they arrived at the council world, the skies were filled with ships from 100 different species. Massive towers stretched above the clouds, and the air buzzed with politics and pride. Sira walked through the grand halls like she belonged there. Elias followed, drawing curious stares from ambassadors and soldiers alike. A human, glowing with ancient energy, walking beside a Galari royal. It was something the galaxy wasn't ready for, but would soon have to accept. The council hall was vast, with curved seats rising in a spiral. Each species sat in their section, speaking through translators. When Sira and Elias stepped onto the central platform, the room fell silent. Sira spoke first. "Gliese 4 was attacked by the swarm," she said, "and we survived because of this." "Man," some council members murmured, others scoffed. A member of the Ralshan Alliance stood. "You claim a single human helped win a battle against the swarm?" "No," Sira said. "I claim we won because we were bonded Galari and human." Together, Elias stepped forward, the golden symbols on his arms glowing for all to see. "I was a soldier, a joke, and a forgotten name," he said. "Until one alien girl remembered what I said and made me into something I didn't know I could be." He looked around the room at faces old and tired. "You keep waiting for heroes to appear," he said. "But maybe what we need are connections real. Ones between your people and mine. Are you asking us to trust humans?" Another delegate asked, this one from a reptilian race. I'm asking you to stop fighting alone, Elias replied. Because the swarm won't stop at Gliese 4 or Earth or your homeworlds. They will erase all of us. Unless we fight as one. There was silence, heavy and long. Then slowly, one Galari elder rose and nodded. Then a human ambassador. Then others, one by one. Sira took Elias's hand quietly beneath the table. Her voice barely a whisper. You changed their minds. No, Elias said. You did years ago. When you decided I mattered. The council declared a new alliance that day. Not just papers and treaties, but a real force, the Flameburn Pact. Galari and human warriors trained together, flew together, and stood guard against the next wave of darkness. But even as they returned to Gliese 4, the sky still burned. Signals from deep space warned of movement. The swarm wasn't finished, and the greatest battle was yet to come. Still, Elias didn't feel fear, because this time he wasn't alone. He had Sira, and together they had become the fire in the sky. The sky was black again, but this time not from smoke. It was filled with stars, thousands of ships from dozens of species, all gathered under a single flag. The Flameburn Pact had become more than an agreement. It was now the last wall between the galaxy and the swarm. At the front of the fleet, 2 ships flew side by side. One was shaped like a Galari crystal spear, glowing with quiet power. The other looked like an earth warbird, scarred, fast, and ready for a fight. Inside the spear ship stood Sira, armored in light and wisdom, her wings brighter than ever. Inside the warbird stood Elias, his hands glowing with golden flame, his eyes calm and clear. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their thoughts moved together, sharp and strong. The bond between them was now complete, not just through ritual, but through trust, through sacrifice, through love that grew from a single silly promise. The swarm came like a black storm, silent, endless, without fear or name. But this time, they didn't face scattered defenders. They faced a united front races that had never fought beside each other before, now moved in perfect coordination. And at the center of it all, Elias and Sira, as the first wave of swarm ships charged. Elias led the counterattack. He flew through space like fire, his every strike tearing holes through the black steel of the enemy. Sira followed close behind, her wings sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Each motion between them created more energy, more power. They weren't just warriors, they were symbols, living proof that the galaxy could change. Across command screens, their image was broadcast to every soldier, every citizen, every corner of known space. Children watched with wide eyes. Elders whispered old myths, and leaders stood in awe, not because Elias was human, or because Sira was Galari, but because they fought as one, and because it had all started with a joke. Back when Sira was just a girl with questions, and Elias was a tired soldier looking for peace. Back when no one took them seriously. Back when he had laughed and said, "Maybe I'll marry you when you grow up." He had meant it as nothing, but Sira had turned it into everything. Now as the swarm retreated, broken and scattered for the first time in history, the galaxy cheered. Victory wasn't complete, but hope had returned, and hope was the weapon the swarm could never understand. On Gliese 4, the skies lit up with fireworks. The people danced again beneath the twin moons. But this time, the children didn't dance alone. Humans joined them, laughing, sharing stories, playing games. The fear was gone. In its place stood something stronger: trust. Elias stood at the same field where it all began. The grass was still soft, the stars still bright. He looked at Sira, standing beside him in a dress instead of armor. Her smile was gentle, but full of power. "You know," he said, "when I made that joke, I had no idea what I was starting." "I did," Sira said with a quiet laugh. "You really believed it back then?" Elias asked. "I believed in you," she replied. That was enough. He looked at her, really looked, and saw everything. The girl who waited, the warrior who fought, the partner who stood beside him when the galaxy shook. He reached into His coat and pulled out a small ring, not made of gold, but of gallery crystal and earth steel woven together. Then maybe it's time I stop joking, Elias said, and start making real promises. Sarah didn't speak, she just nodded, her eyes full of something brighter than light. Joy, peace, home. They didn't need a big ceremony or 1,000 witnesses. The stars above them were enough. The same stars that once watched a human and a little alien girl meet for the first time. The same stars that now watch them choose each other, not for duty or destiny, but for love, far away. The galaxy slowly began to heal, and every child in every world now knew the story. The story of the man who made a joke and changed history. The story of the alien girl who believed in that joke and turned it into a future. And the story of a bond that no enemy could ever break. It wasn't just HFY humanity, F******. Yeah, it was also HF a hope for all. And it began with 7 simple words. When you grow up, I'll marry you. And this time, he meant it.